Matt, when you lose a game, every scab gets picked, right? Everything's the play calling's bad. There's not enough talent here. This guy can't play. That. There's no development. This coach is bad. All those things come out, and I get it. I'm not saying anybody's wrong for asking those questions or making those comments or wondering it aloud. The question's going to be, what does this team look like in a couple of weeks? How much do they improve moving forward? And it starts in the locker room. Do they hold together? It's easy to lead until times gets tough, and then we'll see how this group really leads, and that'll start to play itself out this week.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, the South Carolina game last year isn't, that far removed in terms of number of games, but it's been a while since this team's really been put on the map. And now you've got to pick yourself up and kind of determine how you're going to answer the bell. And I think you summed up, Brent. It's really easy to lead when there's no adversity, but you've got a UTSA team coming to town this weekend that you can get things back right against. And then that South Carolina team that put you on the mat and ended your college football playoff hopes last fall is here the next weekend. And you can get pointed in the right direction, but it starts in the locker room to me. You have to start there. And I think Brew McCoy said it best last night. If this loss doesn't light a fire under you, I don't know what will.
Yeah. Well, and
I mean,
go ahead. Sorry.
No, go. You're good.
I think one of the things, Eric, that you look at too is, and this is no offense to Vanderbilt, leadership wasn't paramount last year after the South Carolina game. Yeah. You could go out and beat Vanderbilt. You didn't have to play well. You didn't have to have your best week of practice, right? You could line up and run the football. Vanderbilt was done. This is different because this is early in the year. You're playing a lot better teams moving forward here, and there's a ton of football left to play. So the challenge is a little bit different. There was great disappointment last year because of the magnitude of the loss. It was a much more significant loss than last night was. It was easier to bounce back from because you had one game left, and then you had to get ready for a bowl game. This one's different, so we'll see how this thing plays out with this team. But everybody's going to ask that question, right? Because look, I mean, you got your right tackle who gets in trouble the night before the Florida game. Okay, has an issue there. You had a players only meeting, whatever that means, on Sunday last week, which gets everybody's blood boiling that there's locker room problems when that takes place, right?
And remember, it was right after a team meeting, and the coaches just stepped out. I mean,
but it doesn't matter. The narrative says you had a players only meeting. What is your first reaction when you hear players only meeting?
I mean, for the common fan, it's like, oh no, the sky's falling.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. So you got to show. I mean, a lot of people look. They're talking about who left the field first at the end of the game. What does that look like? All of those types of things are on. Everybody's on watch for that kind of stuff right now. How does this team respond?
Get a couple other super chats here, and we really appreciate it, guys. Mike and Kevin appreciate the super chat. Mike is talking about Joe Milton football IQ and just kind of having to grow in that. And I think that Joe Milton, at least in this offense, we'll kind of see it week by week, Matt. There's some things that Joe Milton does. I mean, like Mike's saying right here, man, that play clock, it was going down and down and down. It's like snap the ball, and things that he just got to pick up on and get better week from week to week. He's a guy that's not started a whole lot of games in a long time. Really started 2 games in 2021, started a couple games in 2020. Still kind of relatively new as being a starter in this league, even though he's an older guy. He's a 6-year guy. Joe Milton's got to play better. The whole offense has got to play better. And, a week like today or a week like this week against UTSA could maybe be a springboard for that in this Tennessee offense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but last night, man, the play clock, especially there coming out in the third quarter, was such an issue for Tennessee. Having to burn those 2 early timeouts in the third quarter, just killers. I mean, just absolute killers down the stretch when you have to have those extra drives to try to get back in the football game. A lot of times just trying to reset at the line of scrimmage. And that's something I noticed kind of in the first 2 games, but more so against Austin Peay. Seemed like they slowed things down at a couple of different times. And wanted to get in the look that they got in. But even coming out of one of the timeouts, there was one of the timeouts that they came out. Before the timeout, they tried to shift into the formation they actually wanted to be in. They came out of the timeout, and it was still slow getting to the point of where they needed to be. So that's something they have to improve on. Yeah, you're right, Eric. This UTSA game, it can be a springboard. This is a football team that's going to come play. They're going to throw the ball around on you and try to score some points, but you're going to have a chance to score points on them offensively. They just gave up 39 points to an Army team. So you can start riding the ship some this week. You just have to do it.
Well, and I think they've got to communicate better from the sideline too. I think part of that's on Joe, no doubt, but you can't change the play with 9 seconds on the play clock. 12 seconds on the play clock. You don't have time for, particularly when you're having to verbally communicate in every offensive lineman's ear. You can't whistle from the sideline to change the play there. You're not going to have enough time. That operation has to speed up. And you got to quit worrying, as Grant Ramey joins us here. By the way, just pops in the screen. I like that. You got to quit. You can't always be in the perfect play, right, Grant? I mean, at some point in time, you got to roll. I mean,
yeah.
You just mentioned that play, Grant, or Matt. They call timeout. They get in that bunch formation, real tight formation. They call timeout. They come back in the same deal, and it's the jet sweep to Brew McCoy. You needed a timeout to call that play? You're trying to be too perfect sometimes is what it feels like a little bit, Grant. They're trying to almost help too much with a quarterback in the perfect play.
Boys, last night, I swear, it was like watching a team that it was like the first time a team had ever gone on the road. Like they had no concept of what a hostile environment was going to be like. Like it's the busted plays out of timeouts, like y'all talking about the play clock running down, and they're just kind of sitting there. The whole drama with the kick football and 4th down and running it and just getting blown up in the backfield. I mean, on that play, there's an 8-yard cushion on Brew, and it's 4th and 1 on the sideline. And if he just stands up and throws it, it's an easy first down because Tennessee – I've seen it happen to Tennessee a million times, and it's the most frustrating thing that you can – I mean, it just felt like everything was so labored and so hard, and it was like they had never been on the road before. I don't know.
That 4th and 1 – there was just so much going on there that I don't understand. We're talking about the play clock running down and having issues with that. The ball got kicked. The play clock reset.
It reset.
So you had all the time in the world. He snapped it with maybe half the time left. And like Grant said, you had Bruce standing with an 8-yard cushion off, to the side. It's an easy pitch and catch for a first down. To me, and I know it's not been a staple of a Josh Heupel offense, but you've got a quarterback that's 6'5", 245 pounds, and
get under center, put behind him, and shove him forward. Right? Because here's the thing on that play, that 4th and 1 failure. That's the 3rd time in 3 games that Tennessee has run some semblance of that running play, and it's been a negative yard play. It's not even gotten close to the line of scrimmage. It didn't on the second possession in Nashville against Virginia. It didn't against Austin Peay, and it didn't last night in that game. That short yardage woes is got to be a real concern there. Grant, you made a point about it feeling like them not being on the road. This probably didn't get talked about enough, and this is probably not very good journalism on my part. Joe Milton had never played on the road before in a hostile environment. Right. He had started 3 games on the road at Michigan, but it was COVID year, and there was 10,000 people in the stands. That was absolutely, I don't care if he's 26, 16, 66. That's the first time he had been in front of 90,000 people who had no use for him last night. And he had a hard time. And Tennessee, as a result, offensively, had a really hard time with it.
You guys were talking about, Grant was talking about how that was it was like the first time you saw a team go on the road. You guys should have, I was sitting right beside Grant in that press box. I look over and I'm just watching Grant watch the game just because, that's just something I want to do. He's going like this the whole time. What's going on? What's going on? It's so funny.
I mean, and there was one play I was reading what Brent wrote today about broken plays and Joe making a play after something breaks down. And there was one play where he rolled right. I can't remember who he threw it complete to. I think it was the 3rd quarter when they were moving the ball a little bit. And I leaned over to Eric and I said, that's the first play where something broke down and Joe went out and made a play. And I'm not trying to pile on Joe. I've told this to whoever I've talked to today about the game last night. Joe's not great right now. He's not playing his best football. This offense isn't efficient as it wants to be or doing the stuff it wants to be with Joe at quarterback right now, but he's the least of their problems, or at least he's very far down the list of their problems, in my opinion. I mean, I can have some patience with the offensive line because you don't have Cooper back and you don't know what the best case scenario looks like with your best five up there. But just the defense not being able to get a stop, the poor tackling, the whatever that Kamal had in play was, two-hand touch. I don't even know if he got two hands on him, if he would have been down in flag football. But, I mean, just the overall stuff. Like, yeah, Joe's got to be better, but so many different phases of this team got to be better.
He would not have been flag football because you got to reach out with a hand to pull something. You can't pull a
can't just bump.
Shoulder bump. Go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
No, I mean, that play right there is maybe the most overlooked play of the whole thing to me. You know, where it was,
it got Florida going. 62-yard run, yeah.
Yeah, if you at least hit him enough and try to wrap up, he probably gets tackled from behind. You know, you slow the momentum down enough. Then what happens? You know, and that's a big what if. You know, but at 62 yards, that place was rocking even after the missed extra point.
Yeah, we had
I mean, it's what we talked about all week. You got to have a quick start. They had a pretty good start. They didn't have a sustained quick start. And what I think I'm learning about this team the last couple of years, they're the most productive offense in college football last year. They're going to score points, but it feels like it's really hard for them to chase points. If they don't get that fast start that they're used to with Hendon Hooker and scoring 14, 21 points, whatever, pretty early in the game, it feels like it gets really hard for them to chase points because they have quick 3 and outs, and the opposing offense gets on the field and gets back to work. And now it's a little bit compounded with the running clock. And if they can't stop the run, if they can't get off the field on third down, it's easy for another team to take 8 minutes off the clock, just going down on a scoring drive.
Well, and it adds so much pressure. Right. The difference is when Tennessee starts fast, they dictate all the pressure, Eric. Look at last year. Billy Napier's going for it on fourth down because he's like, I can't keep up.
No.
The reverse is happening right now because when you get the ball, when Tennessee gets the ball and you feel like they have to score right here. You can't waste another possession. You don't know how many you're going to get, that type of thing. It's a very different type of pressure than what it's the reverse. It's 180-degree opposite of what Tennessee was doing to people last year. I think Tennessee's got to be willing to they got to figure out a way to make some plays when it's not perfect. They've got to have a little basketball mentality about them, Eric, that hey, it's not drawn up the way it's supposed to be. Who's going to go make the play? Hendon Hooker did so much of that for Tennessee last year. They've got to find a way to be able to make some plays when it's not the picture perfect. This is how it looked in practice, and it automatically looks this way in the game offensively. Defensively, to me, guys, and I'll let everybody comment on this, they better figure out a way to see the ball and not let the eye candy motions and shifts and all that bother them. Because I'm going to tell you right now, everybody they play who's got some talent is going to really tax Tennessee's mid-level defense. That's got to get cleaned up in a hurry. I know they're playing young linebackers. It's exactly what South Carolina did to them a year ago. Florida followed that script really well last night, and it really caused Tennessee problems.
Yeah, I think so too. And again, you're playing young linebackers, you're playing some young guys, but even you're playing veterans in the back end. And these guys, I get it. It's a football game. You're tired. You're playing a whole lot of snaps. But I mean, they were slow to move too. I mean, they were getting over there late and they'd motion. Then you see a cornerback that's, playing man and kind of trailing them, but taking a while to get over there. I mean, you got to go. And then as far as, going and making a play, I completely agree, man. Hendon Hooker, to your point, was so good at that last year. And kind of what is that, right? The easiest one is to a quarterback. It's like, when things break down, just take off and go. And we saw Hendon Hooker do that. That Joe can do that, not like Hendon could, but Joe can do that a little bit. Could it be if you have a tight end or a running back standing in the block for you, things break down. He just turns around and says, yo, give me the ball right here. Let's go. Let me be your safety right here. And let's go make a play. I don't know.
Let's raise it up and throw it to Brew McCoy on 4th and 1.
Yeah.
That's just making a backyard football play, right, Grant? I mean, that's
right.
That's where they got to recognize and go, hey, this okay to do this. Let's go. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect there. But to your point, Grant, defensively, what can they get fixed there? Because this was supposed to be the group that took a step and helped an offense that wasn't going to be as productive as last year. And man, that they got it handed to them in the first half last night.
I mean, they're going to have to get home up front. Me and Eric were talking about this in the podcast, game day podcast. Like, these linebackers are going to be better down the road for this situation because they're forced into playing time. Arian Carter and Elijah Herring, those guys. But right now, it's going to be a struggle. So your defensive backs better step up, and your defensive line better step up, because you're relying on two young guys that you probably wouldn't be relying on if Keenan Peely's healthy. You'd have Peely and Aaron Beasley out back there playing 66 snaps or whatever it is at Florida. So they're going to have to grow up in a hurry, but they're going to have to get a lot of help. Last night, they didn't get any help. That's just what it is. They're in a bad spot. They're in a tough spot, but there's got to be some people step up, and they just haven't had that.
Brent, you got Mike asking us right here, how important is Keenan Peely to this defense? Very important at everything. You also have Aaron Beasley. I mean, he's calling the defense right now when he's out there, but he was not out there, I want to think, for 10 of those defensive snaps. And you had Arian Carter, you had Elijah Herring, and that's a situation, as Grant just pointed out, hey, you got to grow up. I would imagine Elijah Herring's out there calling the defense when Beasley's not at this point in time. But you're going to be better for it in the future. But right now, it's grow up or get move out of the way, because no one's going to feel sorry for you. No one's going to wait around for you. It's just go time.
Yeah, well, and listen, I mean, they brought Keenan Peely here for a reason, right, Matt? I mean, it was to come in and provide some stability to that group. We don't know exactly how Keenan Peely would have played if he'd stayed healthy. We heard all the rave reviews about him in August and how well he played, but he had experience. And right now, there was a lot of things that was probably going a million miles an hour for Elijah Herring last night. Florida got him out of sorts early with those jet sweeps and got his eyes going in a million different directions. And Tennessee's linebackers had a hard time finding the football and reacting, because I think they chased some ghost with all those motions and shifts. And isn't everybody going to do that until you show that you can handle that? I mean, I think they will.
I mean, why would you not? Austin Peay had success with it, and then Florida turned right around and capitalized on it. And I think with Elijah Herring and Arian Carter, whether they took a misstep or their eyes just made the misstep for them in pre-snap, there was a lot of misfits from my vantage point last night with those guys that just caused enough for Florida to have a sustained run game that allowed Graham Mertz in turn to be successful in the play action passing game. And Eric, I'll go back to a point you made just a little bit ago. It just seemed like on that outside zone that Florida kept going to with Trevor Etienne, it was like you were waiting for somebody to run that alley and make a play, or somebody to come, and it was never there. It was 3-4 yards, and then you're talking about a back that once he's downhill, those 3 to 4 yards compound to 5 or 6. And I thought that was really one of the tougher points in the game. Now, I felt like in the passing game, I thought Tennessee, was able to get a rush at times and probably didn't get the benefit of some holds that should have been called. I thought James Pierce battled a few holds that he would have probably got home on had it not, happened. And if those would have been called, maybe Florida has some different outcomes. I thought Roman Harrison got held on a play where Graham Mertz was able to step up in the pocket and fade away and make a really nice throw out of it. But
Tyler Barron got held really bad on, I believe it was the ETN run. I might be mistaken, but he got held a couple times as well.
So I mean that went into it, but that can't be everything. The defensive line, that they weren't right in their fits either. But overall, I think, like you said, Brent, a million miles a minute in terms of what those young guys were seeing with their eyes. And back to Mike's question, I don't know that Peely's that important in terms of calling the defense, but I think he's that important to having some experience behind, or beside Aaron Beasley to allow them to do what they need to do in that mid-level.
That's why you love that room coming into the year, right? I mean, you had a guy that's 25 years old. He's been in college forever. He's played so much football. He knows those fits. He knows the speed of the game, even though he's coming up to the SEC. He's been there, done that. And, of course, you have Aaron Beasley as well. And he kind of allowed those young guys to see some playing time, to get some PT here and all that. But allow those young guys to grow. And, of course, with the injury, you're not allowing those guys to grow. It's just, hey, you got to throw it in the fire right now. But that's football. Again, that's life in the SEC. Nobody's going to feel sorry for you. Going to get to a couple more real quick, and then we got to call it quits here on the Rocket Top Rewind. VFL Willie, is Samson hurt? No, we mentioned it earlier in the show. Just seems like they went with Jabari Small behind Jalen Wright, who's RB1 right now, and I felt like they liked Small better in the swamp last night, and that's kind of the way they went. Timothy here says, need a 235-pound running back that'll truck somebody like they do in rugby. To his point, though, last year you found a solution, Brent, and we're through 3 games right now. We didn't see, correct me if I'm wrong, we didn't see Princeton Fan until the Alabama game, offset eye. And then after that, it was like it was a normal thing. Maybe something transpires as the year goes on, but right now you're struggling on 4th and inches, 4th and 1 like you were in 2021.
Grant, you know a lot more football than I know. You were a all-state legend in Upper East Tennessee. I want you to explain to me, and this is not a Tennessee thing. This is a college football thing. Explain to me the advantage of taking the ball 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage in the shotgun, handing it to a guy who doesn't have a running start, and asking him to gain a yard, as opposed to doing the Jalen Hurts thing and putting big beef behind him and shoving him forward for 6 inches. I don't. Somebody explain that to me, Grant. I want you to go ahead.
I was thinking while you were talking, they need the Jalen Hurts play, literally the Jalen Hurts play. Put whoever you need to put behind him and push the guy across the line of scrimmage. A 235-pound running back is not what they need. Jalen Wright runs like he's a 235-pound running back. You saw him pushing the pile like crazy in the 3rd quarter. I don't think Jalen Wright was set up to succeed a whole lot last night, especially in the 2nd quarter. It felt like they forgot he was on the team. Just kind of the way they were scheming it up, it felt like they were setting up to fail there when they were chasing those points. So I think he runs hard enough, and I think he's a guy that wants to get between the tackles and push piles like he did. I think they're fine there. I think they, like Brent said, they just got to be smarter. You got to be able to take a snap and get a yard going forward, especially when you got a 235-pound quarterback. You don't need the running back because your quarterback's 235. Get there and push him across the line of scrimmage. That's it.